Good afternoon. Since morning, we've had the glitterati of urban planners, scholars, and you know, eminent speakers enlighten you on the process of realizing the dream of smart city. Unfortunately, as an ICT enabler, I'm going to focus more on the ICT objectives for a smart city. Fortunately, most of the slides that I have would be similar in content and spirit with Nawal's. The unfortunate part of it is you're probably going to gauge me on what I say different. Okay? So I'm not going to spend too much time on the fluff, but it's all up there. What I'm going to talk about is how are the systems today, how the systems are going to evolve, and what ICT measures we can take to realize the dream of the smart city. As it exists today, most of the participating services in an urban, local body look like this. We have everything, but none of it kind of seems to, work together. So whether we want them to work together or not as disjointed pieces, or whether you want them to work as an one integrated machine, is what is going to make the difference between realizing the dream and not realizing it. So again, a piece of data. Everybody's got their own share of slides on data. I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but the best business practices in terms of urban governance from the point of information and communication technology kind of details that there are about 6 axes based on which we can define whether the city is smart and sustainable. They are on the basis of economy, they are on the basis of mobility. When I talk about economy, I talk about the participating socio-economic factors. The mobility, when I talk about mobility, I talk about the transportation, I talk about the roads and the bridges, I talk about the immediate environment outside the city and inside the city. We talk about the people, their socio-economic background, their demographic and the psychographic profiling, the living conditions in that particular habitat, and the kind of urban governance that we have today. So these are the 6 axes based on which we kind of define how smart or how sustainable a particular city is. But there is one flip side to it, is that in a country like ours, we have governance, we've got e-governance, we've got the national e-governance plan, but we still haven't got something known as demand side governance. Ultimately, with all these, we are trying to reach certain social outcomes. If there aren't people who are going to gauge that, whether it has reached that outcome, we are not going to correct ourselves, and we will not have a process in place to correct the governance measures. So obviously we need to have a demand side governance to actually see whether we are sustainable or smart. So what makes a sustainable smart city? All the components that I showed earlier, they turn to, stick together and work together like a well-oiled machine. So we have smart and sustainable transport, smart and sustainable water. But what does it mean from the point of view of information technology? From an ICT perspective, we need to look at the cities a little differently, because each city will have its own peculiarities. We would have a greenfield city, something like a Greater Noida, an evolving city where, there was some industry before, and that industry has kind of died down and the city is trying to reinvent itself. The case in point being, let's say, Detroit or Barcelona for that matter. Cities with pain, cities with huge traffic congestion like, Calcutta or Delhi for that matter. And cities which have major events, cities like which are holding, like we had the CWG in Delhi, and we know the kind of development work and the hectic activity that took place before and after the particular event. And then there are cities which are receiving stimulus packages from the government in order to reinvent themselves. So each one of them would require an ICT initiative which is tuned to that particular city. But from the point of view of evolution of the ICT framework for a smart city, you will see that most of the cities today would have systems which are more or less disjointed in nature. We would have an urban local body which would probably have a system which has moved from a single entry accounting system to a double entry accounting system, is looking at citizen services, has built kiosks, has provided the services on the internet, birth and death registrations, so on and so forth. And then there are participating agencies like the Public Health Engineering Department, the Fire Services Department, which have their own systems. And when there is a disaster, we don't have a central command and control which kind of puts all these services together and it starts to work. And that is the primary paradigm shift that we need to have in the system. The systems need to talk to each other, not only from the point of view of the services that the systems provide, but also from the point of view of the processes within these services. So a sustainable smart city process experience, if you look at it, there has to be a virtual environment and there will always be a physical environment. If there is a problem with water in your particular locality, you will go over to the borough office in that municipality and register that complaint. Whether you walk over, whether you do it on the internet, there are two specific elements to it. So there will be a process to take corrective action, and when that corrective action is taken, there has to be a process of feedback within the system, which will capture that feedback and take necessary action if you need to improve that quality of solution that has been proposed. So if you look at the high level architecture, and I think I've got four more minutes on, and this is the most important part of it, is that we need to have a central command and control, a city sustainable center, so to speak. It's no different from what Nawal talked about, but more importantly, you need to have those individual systems work on something like a central nervous system. In our body, the central nervous system takes sensory perceptions from different parts of our body, and then it takes corrective action. Similarly, all these systems, so your urban local body systems, your public health engineering system, your transportation systems, your toll collection system, they all need to come together, feed the information onto that sensory channel, and then there is an analytical piece sitting on top based on which the city administrators can take certain actions. So this is what, from an architectural level, from a layer perspective, how it should look like. We'll have a business process and a policy layer where all the policy guidelines would be incorporated. They'll be transformed, they'll be recoded. An application layer where all these systems would run, all the participating services. Then you would have a data model layer, an intelligence layer, a semantic layer. Semantic layer is where you classify and you build a tree structure for all the assets in that particular city. The development layer, where you will make continuous improvements to the level of service that you are providing, and a visualization layer for people to take and understand what is the perceptible threat at that point in time, or what is the perceptible risk, and take necessary action. So whether it is city management, energy management, transportation management, water management, there are several, initiatives that has been taken by the government in the area of, let's say, smart grid, in the area of wastewater management, in the area of electronic toll collection, having congestion charges on the road, and so on and so forth, which makes all of these services sustainable by themselves and the city to be sustainable by itself. So, sustainable smart city model is now there. Okay, we've got this system in place which, kind of talks to each other. We've got this command and control system. We've got this analytics piece running on top. But still, it's a pipe dream because there are certain systemic issues. And some of them are there on the challenges side of that sheet because there are still silos, and most of it would be archaic systems. They can't be rendered as a service. They cannot be integrated. So some of it will be leveraging on the existing investments made by the state. Some of it would be rip and replace, unfortunately. So with this, I end my presentation. I think I took 8.5 minutes. So that's it. I had lots more to go. My favorite area is urban local body. So thanks, and I'll be ready for questions. Thank you.